Hello everyone, welcome to the How Good Is. Today we're going to take a look at Mitsune, who is an unlimited character. So yeah, she is unlimited, who has charge conservation in her kit. Now we're going to take a look at that, and there is a bunch of stuff that is going to be very weird and very difficult to talk about with this character because with System Moko, it was a bit more easy. It was a bit more easily to talk about how the charge conservation was going to work with her character. With Mitsune, is a little bit different how you're going to have to actually go about using that. But let's just go down the list. So she's a light type charge gorilla with a support type. Is apparently designed by. I had to look this up. The person who also is the mangaka for Spice and Wolf. Apparently, that's cool. Looking at the stats though, even though it's a support type, the stats were actually alright. They're not super high anywhere, but they're decent. Like the attack is over 10,000, the defense is decent enough, that the HP is pretty alright. So yeah, across the board these are actually alright stats. She won't do super duper high damage, she won't survive for super duper long if she gets hit by really chunky damage. But she's going to do a decent job staying around, doing at least a little bit of damage, and yeah, she should be alright overall in these stats. So stats overall are a little bit better than what we see from a bunch of other supports. Moving on, we see the Connect attack up, charged attack damage up, and charged conservation. Okay, so let's just start with the attack up. Okay, the attack up is alright, 40%, standard. You would expect this from basically almost anyone. Charge attack damage up 25%. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, you're going to use this on a charge team. You're definitely going to play it on a charge team. So, yeah, this is pretty good to give someone. And then charge conservation. It's a little bit mistyped here. Huh. Of course, if you're giving this connect to someone, you want them to use the charge discs for stuff. So the charged attack damage up on top of that makes sense. But I'm going to not talk about this connect immediately right now because I think we should talk about some other stuff on her kit as well, because we're going to just cycle back towards this later on. We have the Magia. It's a single target Magia that gives attack up to all allies. So yeah, she is a support after all, so they just said, okay, what is supposed to be supporty about her is that she gives attack up to everyone. About 40% to all allies 3 turns. That's fine. That's totally fine. And she also gives charged attack received damage up. Shouldn't it be charged attack damage received up? You could also call this charged defense down. It's a bit weird, and also the numbers are a bit weird on it. 11% at mark level 5 on the targets for 3 turns. And I can tell you this right now on her doppel. Sadly, she does. I said this during her during the news videos. I was hoping that she was gonna have a really good doppel, because then you could use some charges on her to bonk herself immediately to doppel, and then immediately get a doppel off. And if the doppel, for example, gave charge conservation, that would be absurd. Or if it gave some other really cool stuff. But no, it's just the exact same as the Magia, with just 5 turns instead of 3 turns on the effects, which is alright. It's good. I just would have liked to have seen more. Would have just liked to have seen a doppel that does even more than just a little bit more than the Magia. But yeah, I guess that's just what it is. It's just kind of weird that you have characters that aren't classified as supports that get super amazing effects on their doppels. And then you have characters that are supports that are supposed to support themselves and others, mostly others, that don't get anything special on their doppel. And I'm wondering why. Isn't that kind of just supposed to be the point of supports, that they do cool stuff for others? Why do they not get anything important on their doppels? I don't know. But yeah, at least the doppel is still alright, the effects are still alright. But once again, we're gonna have to go back to this earlier. We're gonna talk about everything else in her kit first before we go down the rabbit hole of what charge conservation is actually gonna do and what all these other effects are actually gonna do. So I'm gonna also talk about the charge defense down later on as well, but for now let's just keep going on to their spirit enhancement. She has charge count up +3, which is awesome. You would expect this from any modern charge ruler to have something like this. A bunch of charge bonuses. She actually has a bunch of charge bonuses, like charge damage up, charge this damage up, charge damage up, charge this damage up, charge this damage up. Jesus Christ, they just copy pasted those notes all over her entire spirit enhancement. She gets 5% light attribute attack up, which is cool. That's fine. 10% damage cap to stay alive a little bit longer. Skill quicken because she's a support. That's also good. Most notably though, a rather important note might be the MP gain up. it's always good to have MP gain up on someone who wants to get to Magia and Doppel, and she does want to get to Magia and Doppel, so it's good to have an MP gain up node on here in order to facilitate that. She also gets an additional Excel MP gain up node, that's also pretty good. So yeah, she has the tools to get there, and of course with all of this charge attack damage up that she gets in here as well, like regular charge attack damage up that we see right here, that's also going to give her even more MP when you end up using those for Excel, so that's also really good. So yeah, seems to be overall, the passive effects seem to be pretty nice. You got a nice spread of important stuff, and then also a whole bunch of charge stuff piled on top of all of that. So yeah, pretty good passive overall here. And then the active is the Unbreakable Charge, gives charge conservation for 1 turn. It has a 6-turn cooldown, which is not actually that long, but that said, you have a 10% chance of skill weaken. So let's say, for example, you go into a Kimochi battle. You use this on turn 1, because I think you can actually go into a battle with 20 charges, or like with charges in Kimochi. Like that works in Kimochi, as far as I remember, unless they changed it at some point. But you can go into a battle in Kimochi, turn 1, use this right here, and like maybe if you roll some Mitsune discs, you can immediately use this to keep your charges going on Mitsune. Maybe even get some more charges in there. So you could do that, and then you have 6 turns. And I think you would have to get at least 1 proc of skill quick. Like, I think you need at least 1 skill quicken in there to be able to use it before the fight ends. Because 6-turn cooldown, doesn't that mean that on the final turn you still wouldn't have it ready again? Or would you have it exactly ready again on the final turn? Well, one way or another, if you do get a skill quick, that will at least help out a lot with the charge conservation. So yeah, hope for those skill quickens, and you can use this a lot more often. That said, it seems pretty alright. So now we've seen her entire kit. We've not actually seen her entire kit. What about her personal? It's her epic gamer setup, I guess. She's got the RGB. Oh my god, look at that! She's got the RGB on the keyboard. Oh my god! She drinks energy drinks from. With a straw? What? Who does that? Who does that? She's got the RGB on the mouse, because of course you need RGB on the mouse. Oh, look at that. Anyway, she's a real gamer. Looks like a Dreamcast gamer, right? But she's a real gamer. She's a hacker as well. She's in general someone who just always stays at home and never goes anywhere. But yeah, what does it actually do? It gives charge damage up about 20%. It doesn't say it here, but I think it's about 20% at max limit break, and about 10% charge attack damage up, which is fine. But overall, you can do a lot better than this. If you want to use her to generate MP, you can probably get like an MP up Memoria that probably does more than this. If you specifically want to use her for damage, you can probably just take an attack up or a straight up damage up. Because if you get, like, for example, the Casimir event Memoria that gives 30% damage up, 30% of all damage. Or this Memoria right here gives 20% of only charged disc damage. So you have 20% only charged disc damage versus 30% of all damage. And I mean, there's other Memoria as well, like for example Bible. Bible also gives plus 25% to all damage if it's maximum break. So you can see that there's a bunch of Memoria that just in general give damage up that is comparable and even more than this gives to just charged disc damage up. And the charged attack damage up is also only 10%, which is not a whole lot. So you can definitely do better than this. But that said, if you have absolutely no other Memoria that you can put on her, like let's say you've already used all your really good Memoria on all the other characters, and you're like, I don't know which Memoria to use, I guess you can throw that on Mitsune, and it will at least be somewhat decent, okay? So it's at least better than nothing, at least better than a lot of other Memoria, but also outclassed quite heavily by a lot of other Memoria. Actually, you know what, while we're at it, let's go over the event Memoria as well, because this one's not too important. It just gives Magia damage up to self and does aim resistance down to all enemies. If you have a Magia character, you could put this on them for that 20% for 1 turn, but I don't even think that's worth it. There's a whole bunch of other Memoria out there that give Magia damage up, and if you're listening to this right now and you wonder which ones, just click on this and go down the list, okay? Okay, I need to scroll down quite hard. You can just go down here into the list and scroll down here, and you can probably find something that is way better than that. What is this? Oh, look at that. This one binds enemies as well. And guess what? This is even better, because if you bind enemies, they take bonus damage from the element they're weak against, which means your Magia damage increases even further if you are strong against that element. Hey, this is actually a better Memoria, and it's unlimited. Awesome. Is this also an unlimited Memoria, so I guess you could also randomly get this. But yeah, just in general, there's better choices out there. Still, aim resistance down 17.5% for 1 turn on all enemies. Sure, maybe you will find some use for this, but in general, this is not really anything that's super special in any way. Maybe if you have a free slot on a Magia character, you might slot this in, but yeah, nothing too special, to be honest. So, moving on back to Mitsune. There's still a bunch of other stuff we need to talk about. There's so much stuff to talk about this character before I actually get to the verdict and actually telling you how good she is and what she actually does. Because she's quite special. So yeah, you need to talk about this thing that I just skipped over earlier. Charged attack damage received up, also what I call like charged defense down. It's this right here. As you can see, only she does it. It's not correct because she also does it on Magia. But yeah, the point is it's now a blue debuff on the enemy that makes them, basically, if you attack into them, it acts as if you had charge up. So for example, the enemy has 15% charge defense down. I'm just going to call it charge defense down just to have it as a shorter word. I'm not going to say this every single time. So yeah, if you have, like, for example, if the enemy has 15% charge defense down and you have a charge point that you've gotten from somewhere and you use a blast, right? Then that blast that goes into that enemy, usually it would benefit from charge up if you had any charge up, right? Like, let's say, for example, the character that you're using this charge blast with doesn't have any charge up, right? So they would not get any other additional bonus from the charge up, but now they actually do get 15% charge up bonus. So it's just the other way around. Instead of you having on your character, I'm going to do 15% more charged damage. So if I use a charge on something, I do 15% more damage. Instead, it's like this enemy right here. The enemy now takes 15% more damage from everything that is charged. And it might sound a bit weird. Okay, why are we doing this? Why are we turning something that was a buff on ourselves into a debuff on the enemy? It's exactly the same, isn't it? Kind of. It is kind of exactly the same, but there are some differences. First off, since it's on an enemy, you don't need to worry about putting this on every single character that you have. Let's say, for example, you have 3 characters that all want to do charges on the enemy. You would need every single one of those characters to get some charge up bonuses in there. Instead, you can just put one super strong debuff of this on the enemy, and then everyone would get that bonus. However, on the flip side, she gets it on a single target Magia, which means it's on one target, and if that target dies, then that debuff just disappears, of course, so Also, she only gets 13% on that, right? On double, 13%, that's absolutely nothing. Her connect gives 25% to that character. So it's a lot less, it's only on one character, it's only one enemy. If that enemy dies, of course it's useless, but everyone gets the bonus. There's one more thing about that, though. And this is something I'm not quite sure about. And I don't even know how easy this would be to test, because it would need a lot of preparation for this, and I don't think people would just die before you get that preparation off. But something that would be interesting is if someone was able to test this somehow, or even data mine. I don't think that you could data mine this. But if you have, for example, 100% charge up, right? That means you're at the charge up cap. Since charge up is a red buff, red buffs can only go to 100%. You cannot get over 100% in a red buff. And the regular charged attack up, that's a red buff. So this right here that I'm talking about, this is charged attack damage up, this is a red buff. They can only go to 100%. So let's say, for example, you have 100% charged attack damage up, but the enemy also has charge defense down. Does that allow you to get over 100%? Like, if you had 100% charge attack damage up and the enemy, for example, had 50% charge defense down, do you end up with 150% charge up? Because I think you do. Because it was similar with the attack up versus elemental attack up, where they actually both stacked additively. You can only get 100% attack up, but if you had 100% attack up and like 50% elemental attack up for your element, you would have 150% attack up. That's how it works. And I think that might be the way it works right here as well. So this might be able to get you above the charge up cap, which, once you realize that might be true, that would actually mean it makes sense that this is only 13% down here, because this would be 13% on top of a cap, which would be pretty cool. So yeah, this is all that I need to say about the charge defense down. So there is some shenanigans you could possibly do with this, but for now, just remember that it exists and that it's just a charge attack up, but on the target. Okay, now let's talk about the charge conservation. I've been through 40 minutes of this video already and I still haven't talked about that yet, but that's like the most important thing about her, and I'm gonna disappoint you all, guys, because how strong is Mitsune and how strong is her charge conservation? Guess what? It depends. It depends. It really just depends on your team, on your memoria, on what your playstyle is, on where you are playing her. Sister Momoko was a kind of character that made herself powerful with her own kit by having charge conservation that she could give herself with an active, which Mitsune can do as well, but also with her doppel. So, for example, you could play Sister Momoko in Kimochi, where you could get her to doppel, give herself charge conservation, which Mitsune does not do. You could give herself charge conservation, then use one Excel disc and some blasts. Blast for super good damage, and guess what? Sister Momoko has ridiculous attacks, so he does a lot of damage. And she also has a crap ton of blast up, so Sister Momoko does a lot of blast damage up. But yeah, so Sister Momoko could give herself charge conservation for multiple turns, not just with her active, for multiple turns, and then keep blasting and give herself doppel again, and then just doppel again and blast some more. So that made Sister Momoko really powerful in Kimochi. Mitsune can't do that. Okay, Mitsune can't do that because she doesn't give herself charge conservation on her doppel, which is kind of sad. What Sister Momoko also did is, because she was able to use those, keep those charges up, she was able to do really fast clears 100 evils. So you could go into 100 evils, turn one, use for example Eriko with charge draw, who would immediately draw yourself a charge combo, and then use those charges with a Sister Momoko active, and then you would get a Sister Momoko connect to someone to keep those charges going and basically kill everything in 5 turns. So yeah, you could get 100 evils clears in 5 turns on 5 waves. You would be able to do that. Some people even did 7 turn clear on 7 waves. That was also possible with that strategy. Sister Momoko goes great for that. Mitsune can kind of do the same thing. Mitsune herself just does less damage. She blasts way less than Sister Momoko does, but she can still kind of do that. So in that scenario, yeah, you could actually kind of use Mitsune. She could even substitute for the Riko in some way, because the reason why you have to use a charge gorilla on turn 1 is because you need those charges, right? You need those charges. But Sister Momoko herself, she can't get the charge combo, so someone else needs to get that charge combo, needs to get those charges going. But Mitsune can do that herself. So theoretically, you could swap in Mitsune instead of, for example, the Riko, to get those charges going, and then use her connect to give it to Sister Momoko, so Sister Momoko doesn't have to use her active for that. So you could extend the strategy by using a Mitsune instead of Riko. However, Riko of course has a charge draw, Mitsune does not have charge draw, and Riko also has her active, which gives everyone on the team charge attack up, which Mitsune doesn't have, but it's only like a little bit, so it's not actually that big of a difference. So there are some differences between those strategies, but I guess in theory that strategy would work out quite well. Now the question is, what if you don't have Sister Momoko? What if you're trying to play a strategy like that, where you just go turn 1 charges and then try and have 2 turns after that, at least 2 turns after that, where you just try to bounce charge conservations around with everyone blasting, maybe getting a doppel out or whatever with those charges. But you don't have Sister Momoko. How would you do that with just Mitsune? You could kind of do that, I guess. You could kind of do that. It's just that, once again, Mitsune herself, who doesn't have charge draw, so it's more random. And also, because she herself does blast that well, she kind of needs someone else to deal the big damage. But that said, because she still has decent attack and a lot of charge attack damage up, she still herself blasts quite well. She still blasts quite well. Just not nearly as much as most other blasters would. So it's a lot of back and forth with, yeah, she can kind of do that a bit, but yeah, she has maybe some problems right here. So in the end, it kind of depends on what you want to do. And I just talked about just that strategy of doing fast clears on 100 evils. What if you just want to play her in a regular battle? You, like, for example, you want to farm event currency. You probably don't want to use her there, but then again, you probably don't want to use any charge characters when you want to just farm event currency, because you're probably just using blasters for that. Okay, let's if you do challenges. Well, maybe she's going to do quite well in challenges if you have like her and one other blast character. And I will at least say this thing, you should probably play Mitsune on a team with only a handful of people on it. Because if you have too many people, it just gets too unpredictable to keep the charges going with charge conservation right here and there. The only reason why the Sister Momoko team worked is you use a lot of draw abilities like redraw and charge draw, etc. And people reset a lot. People reset so goddamn much on every single turn during that strategy to get like the 7-turn finish in there. So yeah, not something you would want to do. There's a lot of randomness still within there, but if you do like 2 characters, like a blaster and Mitsune, you could keep a lot of charges going. That would work out quite well. That would work out quite well. You would still drop charges in there at some point, because the doppel doesn't give charge conservation. But then again, if you were to somehow, for example, play her on a Magia team, okay? You play her on a Magia team, you can do the same thing with keeping charge conservation going. Let's say, for example, you have one other the one other character on your team is a Magia character. Someone with Magia AoE, maybe you play, for example, a Mifu or whatever. Then what you could do is you could use your charges to have Mitsune use an Excel disk and Miwa use an Excel disk, and they probably shoot instantly to doppel. They probably shoot from 0 to 150 immediately if you have like over 10 charges or whatever, so that they can both doppel. Because you get the doppel off, you get the attack up, which is great. You get the charge attack receive damage up on the enemy, so you can keep doing more damage. If you still got your charges, you can then repeat that again to get another doppel out on your characters, so you can kind of bounce magias around if you keep your charges going. It's a little bit wonky, so I will say that there's a bunch of wonky stuff, and ultimately you will just have to test stuff out. I can't tell you right now if Mitsune is great or if she's terrible, but I can at least tell you that she's got the potential to do some really cool stuff. But she also has the potential of doing not a whole lot of stuff at all if you play her in a strategy that just doesn't work out. So I will tell you at least this: if you do plan on rolling for Mitsune and you do want to get those amazing charge conservation combos going, at least try and come up with a strategy that works. You should really try and think about what you want to do with Mitsune, what sort of team you want to play her on, what memoria you want to have, like really actually put some effort into it, and don't just randomly throw it into any team and just go do stuff, right? You need to actually worry about what you want to do with her. But like I said, that said, she has a lot of potential to do some really cool stuff. And that was overall what I wanted to say about her. Thank you everyone for watching. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and I'll see you guys next time.